Yep, I've officially drafted 100 fantasy football teams. I've selected enough zero RB teams, enough hero RB teams, enough robust RB teams, whatever the hell the strategy is. I've tried it and I've actually done it at every single pick this year. So what I want to do now is I want to start looking at the players that I've been investing a ton into versus the guys that I've been steering clear from. So we're going to start it off with this video of my 5 most invested into running backs so far this offseason, what makes them so compelling, and why I keep drafting them over and over again. Now, starting with maybe the most boring option, the guy that I've invested the 5th most dollars into so far this offseason, we are going to be looking at Tyjae Spears. Now, with Spears, yes, I did not draft him at all in 2024. But if you go back to last offseason, you have to remember he was much more expensive than he is now. And the reason for this is he had a great rookie season. He had a share of backfield alongside Derrick Henry. And despite Derrick Henry being in the same backfield, Tyjae Spears played 53% of the snaps for the Tennessee Titans. Tyjae Spears had a 14.7% team target share, running almost 15 routes per game. Now, if you go and look at what happened in Baltimore last season, you'll just see, yes, Derrick Henry's not going to be running routes. Yes, Derrick Henry's not playing on third down. Look at what Justice Hill's doing at the moment. So it was not too surprising that Spears, who is a capable receiving back, had that role running alongside Derrick Henry. You had Tony Pollard getting signed last offseason, which made a lot of people think, oh, Tony Pollard's much worse than Derrick Henry. I guess that means Spears could possibly be the starter now. Obviously, it does not play out that way. Spears actually falls from 53% of the snaps down to 43% because Tony Pollard is a capable receiving back. Tony Pollard, even though he's much worse than Derrick Henry, can play on third down. So this negatively impacted the Tyjae Spears receiving workload, where he also fell down from 14.7% of his team's target share to 9.9. He fell from 4.1 targets per game down to 2.9, and he ran about 5 fewer routes per game from 2023 to 2024. Now, despite all of this, what's actually very interesting is Tyjae Spears managed to increase his fantasy points per game up from 9 to about 9.5. Now, if we go back and look at this Tennessee Titans season a year ago, the big thing to point out is they were the worst offense in the NFL. I mean, they were the worst team in the NFL. They get the #1 overall draft pick. Big reason for this is Will Levis just simply cannot run a functional NFL offense. Now, you have Cam Ward coming into Tennessee, and am I going to sit here and tell you, okay, the ship has turned? The Tennessee Titans are going to go from one of the league's worst offenses to one of the league's best offenses? Probably not, right? If you're looking at what we have with Las Vegas sportsbooks at the moment, they are pricing in the Tennessee Titans to be a bottom 5 team with their expected overall wins this next season. But you really can only go up from where you were last year. And you're also looking at Tony Pollard, a running back that actually saw a career low juke rate in Tennessee this past season, down at 15%. You see the immediate fall off across the board with his efficiency numbers. A lot of this obviously has to do with the fact that, yes, he had a lot more volume than we've ever seen. Tony Pollard with the career high 16.3 carries per game. Tony Pollard with the career high 61% of his team's carries. But Pollard's going to be 28 years old this next season. Tyjae Spears was the more efficient back. Tyjae Spears was actually up with a 23% juke rate. This is now back-to-back seasons with over a 20% juke rate for Spears. So I'm completely fine buying in on the Tyjae Spears price this offseason when he's priced as if he's the clear backup, when this offense should be a lot better. And for underdog drafts, I think we should have some usable weeks for Tyjae Spears, even with the healthy Tony Pollard, where Spears can get 10 plus opportunities a game. But if Tony Pollard were to go down, I believe Spears has the upside to be a 3-down running back with usage as a receiver in a much better offense this season. So Spears, super boring name. I know not a lot of people are going to be wanting to look in his direction this season, but very clear offense that's going to improve. And he is the very clear RB2 there. Now, maybe a more exciting running back, somebody that I thought was a fine round 1 NFL pick last year. I took a lot of them and completely crashed out over it, is Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall, we have some positives. You actually see Breece turn into more of a workhorse in 2024 than we had seen in 2023 or 2022. Breece Hall actually played 72% of the snaps for the New York Jets this past season. Breece Hall sees also a career high with his carry rate up at 63% of the carries for this Jets offense. And Breece Hall at the same time does still average 30 receiving yards per game. I mean, Breece Hall is one of the most prolific receiving running backs in the entire NFL over the first 3 years of his NFL career, averaging at least 30 receiving yards per game each season. Now, there are very clear reasons to be worried about Breece Hall this next season. Instead of having Zach Wilson, who checked the ball down 5.5 times a game to Breece Hall in 2023, instead of having Aaron Rodgers, where Breece Hall was able to run 26 routes a game with Rodgers under center, and we know neither quarterback's that mobile, you should expect a decent check down rate. You have Justin Fields. Now, we've talked about this for 5 seasons now, and I think actually a lot of people understand this the way that they didn't 5 years ago, is those rushing quarterbacks, what they're inherently going to do is they are going to boost the efficiency of the running back running alongside them, while at the same time limiting their overall involvement as a receiver. The reason for this is the maybe Phillip Rivers effect versus the Lamar Jackson effect. You go and you look at Phillip Rivers in his final days in Los Angeles, San Diego, Tomato, and you look at the checkdown rate that you add to Austin Eckler from a quarterback that just simply is not mobile. The pocket collapses. He has no other option but to get it to his last resort option out of the backfield. You can potentially lead the NFL in targets as a running back with that type of quarterback. Whereas if we go over and look at Lamar Jackson, what's going to happen on that end is, the pocket collapses. Lamar can take it himself. Lamar can go pick up the first down, no problem. So the checkdown rate's going to go down for Breece Hall. There's no way around it, and that could be very disastrous. Now, with that being said, Breece Hall over the past 3 seasons is a running back that's averaged over 16 fantasy points per game. Breece Hall over the past 3 years on average has been an RB1, and this is the first time in his NFL career outside of his rookie season where you are getting him at an RB2 price tag. He goes in round 4 of Underdog drafts, and that's why I have taken a ton of Breece Hall. Because while it's very much understood the scale back that we should have as a receiver for Hall, what a lot of people aren't focusing in on is the boosted efficiency as a rusher. Because what running alongside Justin Fields is going to allow is, if you look historically, the Baltimore Ravens always having the running back that's leading the NFL in yards per carry, regardless of if it's freaking J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, it doesn't matter. It's when that quarterback goes to hand the ball off, those opposing linebackers, they kind of have to sit back. They can't crash down on the running back going, this is either going to be a play action or this is going to be a run with Breece Hall, for instance. No, they have to take a step backwards. They have to go, this can either be a Breece Hall rush, a Justin Fields rush, or a play action pass. And we see that year in and year out, boost efficiency of running backs. You're looking at Breece Hall, who's already displayed access to a 30-point ceiling any given week. We've already seen the big playability from Breece 3 straight seasons with over a 20% juke rate. While I'm 100% in line with the market, where I think you have to scale back the receiving involvement for Breece Hall, I think that can be outweighed based off the rushing efficiency that we get. And honestly, if we're going to get a running back of that profile that was a round 1 pick last year, still on his rookie contract, instead, we're going to get that guy in round 4, I'm completely fine taking him, even if we have the overall concerns with the quarterback play. Now, I've drafted a decent amount of Chuba Hubbard, and this is surprising because I know a lot of y'all watching this hang out with me in the live streams every single night. And once we get to round 5 of Underdog drafts, I'm sitting there going, well, you know what? Chuba Hubbard feels like a typical dead zone running back. This feels like somebody that did nothing through the first 3 years of his NFL career. He randomly breaks out in the final season of his rookie contract, and all of a sudden we're overdrafting a mediocre talent because he had opportunity the following season. That's what I said in the live stream, but I guess I've been taking a lot of them. And the reason is again, if you're drafting on Underdog, you're going to notice that a lot of those players that are going in round 5, you kind of have a wide receiver flat tier as opposed to the running backs. So what I've found myself doing lately is kind of avoiding the wide receivers in round 5, going with the running back in this range instead. And that running back a lot of times ends up being Chuba Hubbard. Now, if you're wondering, well, Mason, are we going to get this video for ESPN leagues? Are we going to get this video for Yahoo leagues? Yada, yada, yada. Why are we talking Underdog? It's because it's May. What the hell do you want from me? we're not drafting our regular redraft league until July, until August, until September. We're going to be talking a ton of redraft strategy at that point. But what I'm doing every single night on the live streams, which I hope you can join me, is I'm drafting some underdog teams. I'm practicing for that main redraft league. Obviously, underdog's best ball. There's no time commitment at all during the season. That's how I'm able to draft teams every single night this early in the offseason. And if you wanted to hop on Underdog, now's kind of the time to do it because they have a $3 tournament that you can get your feet wet. You can get some practice in. You're going to have some fun. And of course, if you wanted to draft with us, we're doing that every single night in the live stream. You can find a link to join Underdog Fantasy in the description as well as the comment section. And if you use promo code FLOCK, you will get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, you will lock yourself in for free access this year of all our rankings, of all our draft guides, whether you're playing on Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, NFL Fantasy, it doesn't matter. But going back and looking at the context of this draft board, the wide receivers Chuba Hubbard is getting drafted around include Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison, Rome Odunze. And while I can sit here and acknowledge all the downside risks that we have with Chuba and say that kind of does look like a profile of a player I typically want to avoid, I at least got to shout out the usefulness you had of him last season and why I've been drafting a ton of him. You go back to last year, starting in week, say 3, he was the running back 4, 7, 8, 18, 23, 36, 10, 2, 12, 68, 32, and then the running back 2. And he did this the entire time while I was screaming, oh, you maybe want to sell this guy high. Jonathan Brooks is going to come in and turn this into a committee. Well, now you have no Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is already ruled out for this next season. And while I'm not going to sit here and try selling you on the fact that the Carolina Panthers are going to be one of the best offenses in the league, what I can say is they're going to be better than what they were last year. We head over to PFF, and if you actually look at the point spread rating from teams last season, the Carolina Panthers had been the second worst team every single week with what sportsbooks were projecting with this offense. Obviously, Bryce Young looked a hell of a lot better in the second half of the season than he did early on. So if I'm getting Chuba next to Jalen Waddle and Calvin Ridley in underdog drafts at the moment, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking wide receivers early. Maybe I take Breece Hall in round 4 and then I draft Chuba Hubbard in round 5, have an elite wide receiver core with those 2 running backs, my RB1 and RB2. It kind of seems okay for me. Now going over to our second most invested into running back, here's where we get a little excitement. We have Christian McCaffrey. Now, yes. I can already hear you screaming, well, Mason, if I take CMC in round 1, I'm going to lose my league. And full transparency, this is something that you have to think about with your own level of risk management. Because, for example, if I'm on the clock at pick 11 in the Flock League, and I'm sitting there going, well, you know what? If I take McCaffrey, and he's not good to go this season, he gets injured in week 3, and then I lose this entire league, I have to show up every single week and just embarrass myself in front of everyone. That's very, very scary. And honestly, that downside risk is there. We can go through and we can look at McCaffrey, where since he's been drafted since 2017, there have been 3 seasons where if you took him, you lost your league and had a good shot to get dead last. You had 2020, 2021, 2024, 3 seasons completely erased away by injury. Now, on the flip side of this, you had 5 seasons where he puts up some of the best fantasy numbers we have ever seen. Obviously, all these stats are from flockfantasy.com. If you ever want to check this stuff out, it's free. But if you're ever over on flockfantasy.com, what's going to be very funny to do is just let's all remember how good Saquon Barkley was this past season. Saquon Barkley, 2,000 rushing yards. Oh my God, the best running back season ever, blah, blah, blah. Barkley's best 2024 season, the RB1 year where he averaged 22.2 fantasy points per game, does not hold a candle. Doesn't even compare to the best years McCaffrey's given you. McCaffrey in 2019 gave you 29.5 points per game. 7 points per game more than Saquon Barkley last year. Imagine if every single game Barkley had an extra 70 rushing yards last season. Every single game Barkley had an extra rushing touchdown and 10 rushing yards last year. That's the upside that you really have with McCaffrey. No other player in fantasy football has nearly that much. Now, it's very difficult to know the level of health that McCaffrey's sitting with. I'm not a doctor, and even if I was a doctor, I wouldn't be actually in the room with McCaffrey to look at his Achilles. But what I can do is I can sit here and look at what the Niners have done this offseason. Because obviously actions speak louder than words. All their words were just blatant lies last offseason regarding this injury. But if we just go step by step here, what do they decide to do during the free agency period? Oh, they trade away Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings. Do they bring in any free agent running back? Nope. They don't sign any free agent running backs. They trade away Jordan Mason. And then we get to the NFL draft and go, okay, crap, this is one of the best rookie running back classes that we've seen since like 2017. Are they going to load up on a running back? Are they going to go through and take Cam Scatterbo round 3? Well, round 1, they decide to go with an edge at pick 11. Round 2, they decide to go Alfred Collins. Round 3, they decide to go with a linebacker. Round 3, they got another shot. Hell, they're at pick 100. They can take Cam Scatterbo if they want. They can take Tootin if they want. They decide to take a corner. Round 4. Oh, are they going to take Tootin? No, they decide to take a defensive tackle. Round 4. Oh, they're up again. What are they going to do? Oh, they decide to go with the wide receiver. It isn't until round 5 of the draft that they grab a running back out of Oregon to possibly address the running back depth issues that they have after trading Jordan Mason. So the actions that this team has taken this offseason, for me, it says that they're not too worried about it. They're going into the season with McCaffrey RB1, Garindo RB2, Jordan James RB3. And then we go ahead and you look at the schedule that the Niners have this next year. Obviously, the Niners were absolutely decimated with injuries last season, super disappointing, but that set them up with a beautiful schedule this season. Week 1, Seattle, that game's winnable. Week 2, New Orleans, they're going to be favored by 82 points. Week 3, Arizona. Week 4, Jacksonville. Week 5, Los Angeles. Week 6, Tampa. Then Atlanta, Houston, the Giants, Rams, Cardinals, the Panthers, the Browns, the Titans, the Colts, the Bears. Realistically, out of those 16, 17 games, how many are the Niners going to be favored in? We go over and we look at their expected win total from sportsbooks at the moment. The only teams that project to have more wins this year are going to be the Bills, Ravens, Eagles, Chiefs. So I'm swinging for the fences on McCaffrey, especially in underdog tournaments where freaking Best Ball Mania is $25 to enter and $2 million for first place. That's the place I'm swinging for McCaffrey. Now, if you play in a fantasy football league where you lose, you're going to be ridiculed, humiliated, maybe you have to get a tattoo, I'm not going to fault you at all for going with the safer option. You want to take Amon-Ra St. Brown instead? You want to take Brian Thomas instead? You want to take Malik Neighbors instead? Do it. I may do it in the flock league. I may be too scared when I'm actually on the clock. But hell, if I'm throwing $3, $5 underdog drafts into the wind, I'm going to shoot for that ceiling where we have seen 29 fantasy points per game, 24 fantasy points per game. And honestly, there are going to be very few players outside of the guys going inside the top 3 picks of the draft that can get you that. And obviously, McCaffrey's one. Now, a running back that I have drafted a ridiculous amount of that I don't feel great about, and I was sitting here going, how the hell am I going to make an argument for this dude on the video, is apparently my most invested into player this year. I took him in 2 big dog drafts. So I have over $1,000 invested into Trey Benson. Yeah. Benson, who gives you literally nothing last season. Trey Benson's best year last year, he had 12.5 fantasy points. He had 2 games with 50 or more rushing yards. Trey Benson last season, from a receiving standpoint, he had, 1 game with 20 or more receiving yards, 2 games with 10 or more. Benson showed literally nothing. And the reason for this is James Conner stayed healthy from the start of the season to the very end. And thank God I needed it in the flock league. Conner, you're an absolute tank, and I very much appreciate you, and I hope you stay healthy this season as well. But if I was a betting man, and we go through and look at James Conner, who is now a 30-year-old running back this season, and we go through the injuries that he has suffered through his NFL career. Knee strain, knee strain, knee strain, shin bruise, chest strain, ankle sprain, chest sprain, heel bruise, ankle sprain, turf toe, lower back sprain, quad strain, ankle sprain, quad strain, shoulder AC joint sprain. We have a laundry list of injuries. You look at the depth chart beyond James Conner. It's Trey Benson, DeMercado, a running back that was an undrafted free agent that is 26 years old and has 82 career carries. Whereas we go through and you look at Trey Benson, he has a great prospect profile. Like some running backs that he was around in this year's draft class are like Tootin, Harvey, DJ Giddens, that level of a prospect. Obviously, Tootin, Giddens going much later than RJ Harvey in drafts at the moment. RJ Harvey, perfect situation. That's a different video, though. I think Trey Benson's a good running back. He was a good prospect. He didn't get to show anything in year one, but you go back and look at last season and look at where the true league winner down the stretch came from, and that was Chase Brown. Chase Brown didn't show anything as a rookie. Chase Brown projected out to be in a running back by committee / parked behind another veteran RB in Zach Moss. Now, to get things straight, James Conner is way better than Zach Moss is. The Cincinnati Bengals offense is much better than what you have in Arizona, and Chase Brown's probably a much better running back than Trey Benson. But if we are trying to find that next Chase Brown, I think Trey Benson can be just that. You would never start him in your regular fantasy football league outside of an injury to James Conner, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Benson has a larger role this season, even with a healthy James Conner, where we get some usable weeks in underdog drafts. And then obviously, I think there is that top 15 RB ceiling if you were to get the Conner injury. So I've drafted a lot of them. And yes, this will be probably an updated list by the time we get to the start of the season, as I don't feel super confident with all these running backs being my top 5 most invested into players. Hopefully we get some more rookies on that list, but I'll keep you posted. Obviously, I'm doing these drafts in the live stream every single night. I'd love to draft with you. I would love for you to hang out with us in the chat. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out to those streams when we're live. And obviously, if you want to hop in a fantasy football draft today, really the only way you're going to be able to do so is on Underdog Fantasy. Get in some best ball drafts. It's not going to replace your main fantasy football league. Just going to be some extra fun on the side. And you can find that link in the description, in the comment section. Code FLOCK will get you hooked up with a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. And on top of that, it'll get you hooked up with all of our draft guide cheat sheets for this upcoming fantasy football season. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you, and really hope I get to see you out with the live stream later tonight.